All right, all right. Welcome to Clear Vision Wednesday. I am Claudia Mühlenweg. I'm the creator of the Naturally Clear Vision Method. And before I get started, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, like the show, and comment if you have any questions about the thing that we're talking about today, because I am always going live. And if you follow me and subscribe, you can follow along live and ask questions. Today's topic is the idea for today's topic came about from the so-called World Sight Day, which is put on by the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness. So every second Thursday in October is so-called World Sight Day. And this year it's 10/10, the date, right? October 10th, which is something that is actually term and vision improvement, visual acuity. You might know 2020, but 10/10 refers to measuring at 10 feet. It's kind of the same thing of 2020, but you measure at 10 feet. But that's not our topic today. Our topic is World Sight Day's topic this year is Children Love Your Eyes. And I think children, this is our future generation. We have a huge epidemic of myopia. And that's why I'm excited to bring on my guest. She is coming to us from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Let me bring her on stage and say a few more words. Welcome, Fernanda.
Oh, thank you. I'm very glad to be here with you.
Yeah. So we met, in 2000, we just tracked back. When did we actually meet? We met in 2009 at the International Holistic Conference in Spa, Belgium. I was just in my teacher training. You were already, you were one of the keynote speakers. And we had a little discussion before we decided that we were going to do this today, because my team said, oh, visual educator, Fernanda Leite Ribeiro. I'm like, wait, I thought she was a behavioral optometrist. And so, and then you're like, well, I don't really like to call myself an optometrist. And so I thought that was interesting because I always felt like I'm not a doc, like I feel like I need more credentials, you know what I mean, to do this work. And you're like, no, 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 don't even mention that. So can you share a few words about why, and you did behavioral optometry, which is not the same as just prescribing lenses, right? So tell us a little bit about why you felt like you want to be called a visual educator.
Okay. Yeah, well, I did a very different path. I took a different path than everybody else or what people normally do. Because I met in the early 90s, I met Mir Schneider in Brazil. So my first training course was with him. I think most people here might have heard about him, a guy who worked on his own vision in such a way that he's an amazing being. And so for 10 years, I was just working with his technique. And then I really felt I needed more input. I needed more knowledge, technical knowledge. And that's the reason I went to optometry school. And I went to a regular optometry school because there is no such a thing as behavior optometry. In Brazil, it
Oh,
didn't,
really?
nobody ever knew what this was. So the first, and I think even in the US, you start doing optometry, behavior optometry, something that you do later. So I took this course and it was I suffered a lot. I must say to you that I thought, wow, I'm going to get a retinoscope and I'm going to be just like Dr. Bates, able to see through the retinoscope all animals and beings and all that. And that was not really true. And for those who are listening to us, a retinoscope is it's a device that has lenses and light, and you can see a reflex of the retina through it. And in this reflex, you know if there is an error of refraction or not. And you can infer even one very important thing that was something that I loved to learn, among all those other things that I didn't like very much, which is with the retinoscope, you can understand the level of attention the person is putting in the vision at the moment. So this was very interesting. But anyway, I went through optometry school, did all that. I was never a good optometrist because I didn't train refraction at all.
So can we stop for a pause for anybody listening who might not be so involved yet? So refraction, can you quickly explain what refraction is? And when we talk about refractive errors, what that means, just so everybody's on the same page?
Great. Refractive errors is what we call myopia, hyperopia, or nearsightedness or farsightedness, astigmatism. All these are considered to be errors of refraction because the eye refracts light and the light has to reach the right point in the retina for you to see freely without any compensatory glasses or anything. So you can manage to see all distances with your free eyes. When you have a refractive error, it means that your eye is not reaching that level of performance. And then you have lenses, optometrists give lenses to compensate that you cannot reach well. This is the way regular optometry thinks about refraction or about how you see the world. And this is the point. This is the big thing that optometrists do. And this is exactly the opposite that we do as vision educators. Our idea as vision educators is to help people not only get rid of their compensatory glasses, but to understand and to build a good functioning pair of eyes and brain attached to these eyes that don't need to use the help of like crutches for their eyes, because glasses are not anything else than crutches.
I agree with that. I call them pills for the eyes. You talked a little bit about the retinoscope before we get into children's vision, because the retinoscope, like you said, was mentioned a lot by Dr. Bates. And I've actually never experienced, I would love to experience that. But what he talked about in his book from 1920 is that he used the retinoscope to see how well, and you just explained that you can see the retina and how somebody focuses, and he would be able to tell that somebody would focus correctly or that they would have a so-called refractive error. So even if somebody had, let's say, 10-10 vision, perfect vision, or 20-20, he would say, I think Dr. Bates talked about when somebody looked at an object they didn't know, like a book or text in a foreign language, or something that they don't understand. Like sometimes at night, right, we might see a shadow, we don't really, so that he proved with the retinoscope that somebody, even with perfect vision, had a so-called refractive error if the brain could not figure out what they were looking at. So is that something that you explored too? I'm just curious because I really wanted to explore that.
Yes. And that was like, the plus for me when I went to optometry school. Whoa, I'm going to learn to do that. It's not so easy. That's I'm sorry to say, but like for me, I trained and trained and trained, and I still made mistakes on 0.50. It's a number of diopters or
right. So a half a diopter, right?
Yeah, the error. But what happens with the retinoscope is that you throw the light into the retina of the other person and you see this reddish reflex. And then as you move the retinoscope, you will see a movement in the reflex there. You see the fibers of the retina going in one different direction. As if they go to the same direction, it means something. If it goes opposite direction, it means something else. And then you have a set of lenses, a very tiny ruler with many tiny lenses that you try there, you put in front, and then you have, this is 0.25 error or 50 point for myopia or for the side of nearsightedness or the side of farsightedness. And then you measure, you can see if there is astigmatism or not. So you go twisting and looking and examining, and then you get it.
But so that assumes, I would think, again, not knowing how this exactly is done, that assumes that somebody, your patient, and because we want to talk about children today, that assumes that that person is sitting pretty still, right? Like if you're there, like moving around, and now you're trying to, right?
Well,
So
a good one can see the difference, can find it. There are many ways, more sophisticated ways to do retinoscopy, even in toddlers or in babies, just born babies, like very young. So there are many ways. The thing is, you were mentioning what Dr. Bass discovered with that, linking this with attention or difficulties that we can say, like some emotions that interfere in the way you're seeing freely the world. And I think this is all about our work.
mm-hmm.
We don't live in a world that is like a world out there, us here. We are connected all the time. It's like just like our brains. The richness of our brain is to interconnectedness. We have that with the world too. We are all the time connected with likes and dislikes, with choices, with sounds that come in, interferences, and you have to deal with that. So, and this is always a source of stress. This is stress. Stress is something that comes to you and takes you out of your homeostasis, right? It's
Right.
exciting you or depressing you or anything. And in even little things, the smell that comes in and reminds you something or not, anything. And what Dr. Bates saw is that any interference, anything that puts cognition on or puts your attention in a different set interferes with your vision. And this is very much true. It really, like sometimes it's like 0.12 of diopter, which is very tiny. Something that is nothing, can be nothing. But I'll tell you, it's not true that it's nothing. And once I experienced that myself with some lenses, it was a prism, very little power, very little, just like this 0.12 is, you don't feel the difference. And I got completely dizzy and sick in my stomach after some time with that. And it was in a in a meeting with people who work with vision too. And I was very much amazed with this personal experience. So any lens, anything that interferes in your sight does something to you.
I 100% agree with that. So let's talk a little about children, because obviously I used to work just a little bit with children when I had a one-on-one practice, and I know you're now retired, but you worked a lot with children and obviously their parents and adults. So we hear this all the time, right? The usual scenario is, kids go to school, and then at some point the teacher notices that they can't see the blackboard, or nowadays it's probably all projectors or screens, whatever.
Yeah.
And the schools in many countries and districts are actually required to have the parents take their kid to the eye doctor. So a lot of times, you can't even say. So then the kids get taken to the eye doctor. And to me, I don't know, I know you were probably a fantastic, sweet eye doctor, but I remember just going to the eye doctor itself was hugely stressful, right? And then you sit in this room. And so have you found, I always believe that the kids so there was some kind of stressor in school. It could be just going to school itself. Like, right, when I went to school, I was 6 years old. I didn't go to kindergarten. I was so shy. I was so scared. I was so felt like weird, and then you get this anxiety, you get this kind of nervous system activation, and then your vision gets more blurry. So have you found a lot when eye doctors say, your kid needs glasses, that, and let me, before you even answer, I had a neighbor, where I live. She moved away, but she had a daughter who was farsighted. And so I know we talk about nearsightedness, but so I said, go to another doctor. And she came home she showed me completely different prescription. Like they couldn't have been any more different. So have you found, like you talked about the retinoscope and that you can kind of get a sense of what the actual refractive error is, but you also talked about how any interference can kind of produce that refractive error. So what happens when somebody brought that child, to your office, like what did you notice, or what would be things that you would do when somebody like came with a child?
Well, that's a very good question, because it really happens the way you say. Until now, people go to the ophthalmologist. In Brazil, optometry in Brazil, it's nothing too big still. It's a problem also. And can you imagine behavior optometry?
Yeah.
But they go here to the ophthalmologist. The ophthalmologist says, oh, you need glasses, poop. And they go, and then mom says, oh, thanks God, now I discovered the problem, glasses. Very few come to us to do some different work. But what happens? It's very common for me to find differences in that child's prescription. When they come to me, comparing the prescription I would get from in my office from what they get from the ophthalmologist. And it's so, why is that? Because the exam itself is already terrible. First, they do only refraction. They put the kid sitting with that machine, which is called the phoropter. It's that big machine with the lenses, the set of lenses, and they go changing the lens. This is better. They do first something else. They go to the auto-refractor, which is doctor-based device, automatic in a big machine.
Right, I've seen that where you like say, you have to read the letters in this, you look through this machine, and or they have a balloon image. I've seen different things, and you're supposed to say when it looks sharp. Yeah, and then exactly.
It is not paying attention on that, daydreaming through that image is going to give a different reflex. So this is always something that doesn't work. Then they go to this big machine, and in this big machine, it's a subjective refraction, or you start putting the lenses and the kid will say which is better for him. This is already a source of stress.
Okay, I remember.
How do I know what I'm gonna say here is gonna be what I'm, my destiny or something. First this. Second, when you do something active in your central vision, taking away periphery, you're changing everything. Because periphery gives you the sense of where should I point my eyes. And if you don't have a where, you have a different system. This system like this, it's going to show you something different than when you are on the streets, walking around with your periphery, telling you how to put your central vision here and there and change and everything. So it's very common that pair of glasses that come out from that doesn't work fine. And plus, all the anxieties and I would say a big, many emotions that can come together, like anxiety, as you said, boredom, very important, shyness, detail-oriented kids that are slower in things, interconnection with other kids, everything plays a role in changing that character of the character of the refraction. Refraction is a way that you, how would I say, you connect with the world, like where do I want to put my eyes to understand that image? So if I'm afraid or if I don't want to deal with that situation, I will just close in myself and be myopic, because the myopia is this.
Right? It's like, yeah, you don't want to see, you literally don't want to see because it's scary. And then, so we will talk in a moment what you then do. So this is what usually typical happens, right? The measure, that's why my neighbor came home with these completely, like, I was like, this is complete, I don't remember the numbers, but it was very different from each other. Like literally, this child would have been using this prescription which was based on that moment of fear in this eye doctor's office. And I love what you said about the periphery, because in the old days, there was a Snellen eye chart on the wall. You looked at the eye chart. Now you are usually in a dark room. You have this big, scary machine. You have to kind of, you can't move. And I don't know if you noticed this. I talked to another doctor who had a residency with a pediatric ophthalmologist here in the US. And he said the kids that were like putting their chin in the thing and like staring at the thing left with glasses, and the kids that were like the wiggly ones, like they kind of moved around, they're left without glasses. So they're probably naturally, using like how we teach a lot about movement, right? In our work, we do a lot of movement, not just physical movement, but also eye movement. So, and then I would also think that the parents, and I was a single mom. I had two daughters. They were little. I raised them on my own. You do your best. And every time somebody says, oh, this behavior, it's very hard, if you're a single parent or not, but you do your best. A lot of times you have unconscious patterns that you took over from your own childhood trauma and your parent and your upbringing. So how do you, because obviously the parents could also be putting pressure on the child, like not even consciously, right? So how do you, when you do that exam, or when you used to do those exams, like what do you do with the parents? Like how much of that did you feel was important to do?
It's mandatory that they participate in some point with the whole thing. It's not something you delegate to someone else to do. And this is the big problem now. I think my worst cases in office in my life were those parents that would bring, the kid will come with a nanny or the grandmother, and then I would film the exercises for them to do at home. It wouldn't happen. I didn't have engagement, because kids, it's easy to work with kids, but they don't know why they're doing that. Why do they need that? Not everybody. If you get a small kid of 6 years old, mom is telling him that he needs to do something. So there has to be the engagement of parents to help him out with playful things.
Yeah, games, right? It's all about games, not exercises. Yeah.
Yeah. First thing, we have to change this nomenclature. We have to say, let's play. We have to be creative, invent, create the games out of the exercises. And the whole idea, just coming back to the difference between an examination room of an ophthalmologist or a regular optometrist and what we do. What I'm aiming of in an evaluation is to understand what is the power of discrimination. What is the flexibility? What is the interest? How is this body-eye connection doing? Things like that. And also, it's a multidisciplinary task. Sometimes you have to refer to a psychologist or somebody to help, because I'm not skilled to work with everything.
Right, of course not. Yeah.
I also
like parents. Patterns, I don't know about you, but I would ask them, like, what's your favorite subject in school? And sometimes you find out they are horrified to go to the school. And so there's a whole, I think what we have to really, it's important that the parents and also are you agreeing that they work on their own vision so that they understand these things? And I love what you said about creativity, because yes, there's certain kind of how we teach and so-called, I don't even like the word exercise, but how we would teach a practice or exercise or technique, but then making it a game, making it playful. And I think that's a lot of times when the busy parents that have full-time jobs, and like you said, then they delegate it. And so I think that is a key piece for anybody here listening as a parent, or even if you're a teacher or grandparent, you have to be fully invested in this. And it's not like something you can delegate, now do these exercises. But let's get back to, so obviously the parents obviously want to make sure that the kid doesn't get expelled from school. They want to make sure that their kid is safe, that they learn things in school, right? So there's obviously the parents that are attracted to people like you and I are the ones that want to help their child. They don't want to put their child in glasses. But at the same time, they don't want their child to be bullied and teased and like literally like sitting there, like falling behind. So how would you, like, say you had a child that, needed, you said about psychology, right? Sometimes they need emotional support. I've definitely worked with children like that, but let's say that's not the case. Let's say there's not like this huge trauma but how would you then address, like, what would be the kind of the steps that how would you approach this? Would you give them pinhole glasses, which could also be a reason for kids to be teased, right? The glass with the little holes. Or how would you help them to kind of function in their school day? Yeah, tell us a little bit.
Sorry, there is a interference here.
Okay.
Well, first thing, I want to just correct something because I think all parents, they really want the best for their kids, and it's not easy to be a parent in the modern world at all. I was a mother of 3 kids and running around all the time, going crazy and trying to be the best mother and everything. What time for exercises, And
I know.
my youngest kid had problems, so this is also something that put me in this path. So anyway, it's not easy, and we need help, and but we need to be engaged. It's different than time, like the clock time, working with the kid, and the engagement, to pose, to help, to this thing about being creative and everything. So we have 2 situations, the school situations and the home situation. In the school situation, we have not too much. I try to avoid things like pinhole glasses and stuff like that for kids. For different reasons, not only the reason of the bullying, but also because sometimes I prefer them to have periphery open. My way of thinking, periphery open is everything. So sometimes to ask the teacher to be helpful in terms of addressing the kid to use the glasses only in such and such situation, and then I get a lot of goodwill in these terms, like only in tasks that he has to go to watch far, or it depends on the kid, or anyway. So in school, I have less interference, but at home, the idea of tablets and pixelated screens in general, I think we don't need to talk about it because it's so
I think it's
known that this is like.
And then I think it's so hard for parents nowadays. So when my daughters were in their teens, I think when the first iPhone came out and we didn't get that, I mean, I don't know, I think we're a similar age, but I think our kids we still kind of, we had the digital revolution, obviously, but we didn't get to the point where now I always say, I don't want to be a parent nowadays. It must be so hard to not have your kids, But anyway, let's not talk about screens. We know that screen use is a huge problem. But let's talk about what parents can do in terms of helping the child.
First thing, to rule over excessive near vision at home. This is mandatory. Kids are already in school with a lot of near work. And near work is poison. Excess of near work is poison for myopia. That's why we have these epidemics. We have I was reading in a paper many studies, and about 40% of the teenagers and kids from 6 years old to 19 will be myopics. 40% in 2050. So just to put that.
I think it's 90% now. In some South, like China is over 80%.
In China, yes. In China, like years ago, 86.5% of the teenagers were already. In Korea also. Then there is a mixture of genetics with, but also a very highly intellectual-oriented population, and very stressful. I even took a study among many different civil countries. And I felt the happiest and the less myopics were the Finnish. They don't have homework.
Oh, right.
What is this? It's like that, you know. And they are very intelligent, very smart, very skillful and everything. And in Korea, on the other side, they go to school and they stay studying until 11 p.m.
Wow, that's
Yeah, I
crazy.
did a survey and just
Wow.
to watch into this different countries and to see that. So first thing is that take away too much stress from school life into your home. Home is home, school is school. Okay, you have to do your homework, you do, but then time to go out and play. Sunlight, first thing, the most sunlight you can get. Just go out and prefer to do tasks outside and inside and then indoors. It's something I also understand that this is very difficult in some cities. You say to a mother in New York City or in São Paulo, where I live, that live in apartment buildings, not very safe neighborhoods sometimes. But you have to manage, each person will have to find it his own way. I can help when I'm taking care of that person. I can help to find ways, different ways than just thinking about, but free time outside is mandatory. Playing games, hand-eye coordination. The best games I learned were suggested by my kids in the office. And then we developed in a way that was the good thing for their eyes.
Oh, that's amazing. So you played, yeah, it's so interesting. Okay,
Great.
playing
So
games, ball games,
eh?
ball games, and all kinds of like movement.
I'm going to just describe one, if you
Okay,
allow me
yes,
to tell a
please.
story.
Examples. I love it. Yes.
It's a girl, 12 years old, very beautiful girl. She was born with a palpebrae tumor, so she was monocular. This eye, there was a ptosis is when the palpebrae, the eyelids are down, and that eye didn't work well. And she was starting to get myopia in this eye. Her mom was very scared because she said, "Oh, she's already has this condition. I don't want her to use glasses." And they were all very engaged. And then the pandemic came. So we really messed up a little bit with our work. But anyway, when she was in my office, she's a very clever girl. We both invented, she created, and I put some, let's say, some pepper in it. So the game was the following. I had one basket and she had another basket. We had lots of bean bags. Bean bags are something that everybody should have at home to play when we are playing with vision. So we put ourselves at a distance like 1.5 meters, 2 meters of distance. It depends on the sight of the person. And the game was, I had to take bean bags and throw into her basket, and she has to do the same into my basket at the same time. But at the same time, we have to protect our baskets from getting in the other one. So we
I see. Okay.
save and throw at the same time. This came out like that. It was just, we started, no, let's do this. Oh, okay. And it was wild game. Very nice. After this kind of game, she was plano.
No,
Like
this was gone.
she had like a myopia of 0.75. After playing the game, I would see she was like 0.25 or nothing.
Right. So give us some other stories. I think stories are really
The problem is that it didn't last. And this is important to say, because after a very playful game that you have to put periphery and central vision together, you accomplish things like that. The point is, what is the bad guy, the the bad guy for myopia, is the habit.
Mm-hmm.
So when I come back to my old way of relating to the world, and this is something that we have to fight and show ways that it can change. When you take a kid, a small kid, it's much easier to change a habit. And that's why parents have to be engaged, because this is, if you change the way this kid sees the world or relates with things, and is able to get rid of the habit of bringing the world in on himself and just expanding it and having fun with this expansion, you avoid myopia to grow. Because this is functional myopia. It's a myopia that you can get rid of. It's different than a myopia when you are like 2 or 3 years old and you already have some myopia. This is more genetic. This is more difficult. You can avoid growth or extreme growth, but it's difficult. And sometimes you say, well, some myopia is going to happen here. It's
So what's
everything.
the age then? So, I mean, you talked about the 12-year-old girl, and I had many examples of when I did work with children in person. We would always see, I didn't have a retinascope, but we would always look at the eye chart, and people like they could read the chart or was easier or saw more clearly. But then, like you said, you come back home and so I felt the same way when they were like 12, 13 or older, unless like, and Mia Schneider, actually, I think maybe it was Mia or somebody else who said between 12 and 18, it's almost not pointless, but it's like they have to be really motivated themselves. And then when they're young adults, now they have more of a, control over their environment, the behavior. So would you recommend, if parents notice something with their children's vision, to do it sooner than later, like even with babies or toddlers versus, yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes. It's much, much easier to work with children than with teens. This is
Mm-hmm.
very much true, because teens, they have to want to do it.
Yeah.
Mom are pointless at this moment. Actually, what mom says, you do the opposite.
I remember I do the same thing.
So there's but no, let's do it. And then mom just sticks on you with her truths, and you don't want her truths anymore. So it's pointless to do this way. I'm talking about like until 9 years old, when the child is still mommy's child. Then you can have this relationship and play games at home and do things like that. So as I was saying, to play outside, to propose things that implies in movement, lots of movement, throwing balls, taking things at targets, and all sorts of things related to movement and opening of space. That's the point. When you grow a little older, when you get into your teens, you want to be with your friends, you don't want to be with mom, and you want to, and you only, as a therapist, you work with this teenager only if he or she wants to change.
Yeah.
I
So
think the
let's
whole
talk a
work.
little bit about, sorry, but before we started the live show, we talked a little bit about the connection of, we talked a lot about refractive errors today, mostly about nearsightedness, and we can have you back and talk about farsightedness another time. But you brought on, when you mentioned that girl, but with this one eye that basically wasn't working well, which she had mostly monovision, meaning just one eye vision, which means you really don't have any depth perception. But talk a little bit about, because obviously there's the apparent things, like I had a squint as a kid, my eye turned in, and actually I see it still in some photos. So there's how do the eyes work together? A lot of times we hear about convergent insufficiency, convergence, which is like how your eyes, look up close. Divergence is when the eyes are more parallel and you look in the distance. But talk a little bit about that, because I think behavioral optometry, as far as I always understood that, is that so-called neurobehavioral developmental optometrists focused mostly in their work. In fact, I had discussions with some of them on how the eyes work together. So depth perception, binocular vision, stereo vision, people with kids with lazy eye, those kind of scenarios. And some behavioral doctors even believe that there's nothing you can do about myopia. They only work with binocular vision. So tell us a little bit, because you told me there's a connection between the refractive error and the binocular vision, and I'm really interested in hearing more about that.
Okay. And this is really the main reason that I wanted so hard to be a behavioral optometrist, because it was difficult to work with binocularity only with natural vision tools. I felt that I needed something else, and I read a lot about it. I met Ray Gottlieb very young in life, and I really wanted to do everything I heard about. And it's true. The idea is when you have a good binocularity, you save your vision from a certain amount of stress, and you can work even on refractive errors through enhancing your sense of depth. Because the stereopsis, which is our sense of depth, it's not only that, but this is how we translate it. It's like the ultimate union of all skills that a good pair of eyes should have. I have to have good movements, good flexibility, good power of discrimination, good attention, good everything. Good eye-body connections to be able to see the world in stereo. So when I see people, and it's very normal because we see today our horizon, our urban horizon is very 40 centimeters distance from our faces. So it's very natural in not in this good sense, that we build our abilities into this narrow space. And then our eyes will work as they can. If I'm like, I have a myopia, I'll be very good here, but I'll be day by day bringing in the image closer to my eyes. If you see myopic kids with their cell phones or anything, they go like this.
Even with glasses on, I've sat on the plane next to a kid, and he was like literally this with the glasses on. I was like in the and I was like, I didn't say anything because I felt like I don't want to interject, but oh my God, yeah.
Then taking this example, they tend to get an excess of convergence. Very complicated to discuss here what is this excess of convergence, but the two eyes come together like they're pulling in. And then everything else has to work in this closeness. Pupils change their size, the lenses of the eyes, which is the crystalline lenses, that they are the focus lens that move to make focus near or farther away. They have to work hard here. So all this excess is today considered to be like the front door for the myopia growth. This is the point. So too much near vision in the normal eye, the strive to put both eyes together all the time makes the system say, and then you can grow myopia or you can put one eye out.
Right, so that the amblyopia connection where like one eye is just like, we can't take it anymore, and you then become the monovision where one eye is better far, one eye is more better near, which is could be a surgical or contact lens, but sometimes naturally, right, one eye checks out. And then have you noticed that a lot with
yes, but in this example that I gave, it's not very normal to have the amblyopia as a result in this excess of convergency. But there is insufficiency of accommodation, many names that you say. You were saying my eyes work together my brain learned how to put two eyes together, but the stress of life is making them separate, or engagement in different distances of one or another. But that doesn't mean that the eye won't work ever with the other one.
I got it. Yeah, yeah.
When you say amblyopia, which is one eye that doesn't work together with the other, is a binocular problem that's from the developmental times of the child, like from toddler to 6-7 years old. Something happens, and normally no, but it's that can happen. It's hyperopia, which is the other one, the different than myopia, that happens, and the two eyes can't accommodate or can put focus on together, and then yes, one eye disengages and you have the strabismus or just amblyopia. It's like you turn off the development of one eye and just leave the other one, and then you have to work both together. But what we were saying before about insufficiencies or excesses of accommodation or convergency are habits that interfere in your sense of evenness, of equilibrium of both visions, and can develop differences in also in diopters, like one eye more myopic than the other, things that are always what happens when you have to engage with the world and to adapt. Adaptations, all adaptations. So the world is calling you to do something, you have to do fast. Our brains are programmed to be fast right away. And the way I can perform is this way, so I'll do it. And this is how we come and then put them in a different path. Help them to follow, oh, there is another way of working, let's do it.
Well, thank you. That was fantastic information. I learned a lot from you today, and hopefully everybody who has a child or grandchild or who is a teacher maybe learn some new things. And we do realize, I think, Fernanda, you would agree with parents, with children, it's not, there is always all these other things to consider, right? There is children that I had in my practice where I was like, their school was not the right school for them. But I also know as a single mom, we can't always, sometimes we have to use that school because it's close to the house, and, and it's not like, yeah, we could not always afford to go to Montessori or Waldorf school or whatever, but working in understand, I think the first step is always understanding all these things. And that's why I love what you said about parents being really engaged and interested, and instead of thinking of this is just a set of exercises, right? It's really changing habits, understanding things, and also providing a nourishing environment for the child. At home, you have a lot of control. At school, you don't always have control. So thank you so much. How can people find you? Are you still actively working with clients as a vision educator? Like what, everybody that's listening, I know you obviously speak other languages very well.
Well, I do English, Spanish, and Portuguese. I can that for a consultation or something would be it. And I'm not working anymore at the office, but I'm really open to any online talking, more something that, not evaluation, but some
consultation, guidance, support,
guidance, yes, for parents or for referral. So I'm open for that. You can email me. My email.
We will put your website there. It's in the show notes on YouTube, and we also have it here. I will put it again into the chat if I can. For some reason, YouTube is wonky today, but it's in the show notes under the YouTube video, so people can find
WhatsApp. I work very well with WhatsApp.
Oh, okay.
So you can save my number. Much better than emails. It's sometimes I forget to look at my mailbox.
Oh, emails are the bane of my existence, but we don't want to put your number or your email on YouTube because that's
Okay.
Your website is there, so people, I'm assuming that on your website there's a way to contact you,
Yes.
reach out to you.
Yes.
So exactly, so that's and
There
then
is.
WhatsApp, you people, so everybody that loves what Fernanda was saying, and obviously you also work with adults, but our topic today was children. So thank you so much. I would love any last thing you want to say before we close the YouTube live.
First, I'm so happy to share things like that. This is a total pleasure, and I'm really open to help anybody. My idea always on being a vision therapist was to help truly and now if I can move more people to do this kind of work or to look for help with all many wonderful vision educators that there is throughout the world, that we all share a lot of knowledge. We are in a big chat now. You are welcome.
Thank you, Fernanda. You are definitely been an inspiration to me ever since we met in 2009. And yeah, so I love that we're now all more connected. We do have a WhatsApp group for the holistic vision teachers, and there is eye doctors in there as well. So thank you so much for being here today. So make sure you check out her website. And like you heard, Fernanda is ready if you are interested in getting a consultation or some advice in your scenario for your child or yourself. Please reach out to her in English, Spanish, or